My name is Steve Evans. I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the next era of secure access with ZTNA 2.0. The big change or shift that we've seen over the past 24 months is that work is no longer a location, it's an activity. Previously, work used to be a location that we all went to, as in, I have to go to work. But now, we no longer need to go someplace to perform our duties, we just work. We are now able to perform our activities whenever and wherever we need to. What has driven this is a combination of two things. Apps are now everywhere. Most enterprises have moved to a model where you no longer consume apps strictly at the data center. The app delivery model with SaaS, with cloud, etc. is now hybrid. The vast majority of enterprises today utilize some combination of private cloud, public cloud, internet, and SaaS. This is now the app delivery model. The other item driving this change is the users. The majority of organizations today have also adopted a hybrid work model, supporting either partially remote, as in working out of your home office or 2 to 3 days a week, or completely remote, or anything in between. While this new work model affords a great deal of flexibility, there's no longer a tie to the traditional model of work being a place. What does all this mean for IT? Previously, we connected branch offices to data centers. That was the primary role of IT. You had to protect access to the data center, protect all of the apps in the data center, as well as any apps not in the data center, such as SaaS and all, other internet resources that are out there. This was typically done by deploying security at the data center edge using a security stack which would include technologies like proxies, an IPS, a CASB, AV, DNS, security, and others. In this model, you had a single fat pipe concentrated at a specific location where you could deploy and apply this massive stack of security equipment in a funnel that all traffic had to go through. What we're now seeing, though, is a completely different model. What we've seen is that the model is shifting from a branch being connected to the data center to a user now being directly connected to his or her application. This is a dramatic shift from our traditional model, which dramatically increases our attack surface. Now the user goes directly to all the applications needed and cared about to do their work, whether that's in the data center or in the cloud or a SaaS location, etc. The location of the app really shouldn't matter, but what matters now is delivering a consistent and optimized experience to access all applications. When you extend that model to your entire hybrid workforce, you see that attack surfaces are now expanding exponentially. And the more the attack surface expands and grows, the more you need both security and access controls to protect enterprise apps and data. At the same time, we're also seeing the number of security tools that organizations have been deploying to protect their apps and their data has also been exploding. Most CISOs report this as a primary threat vector, managing all these tools, adversely impacting both incident avoidance and incident response. To try and get a handle on all this exploding attack surface and gain control, we start to see the emergence of ZTNA solutions. The way these first-generation ZTNA solutions work, we'll call them 1.0 solutions, is when a user requests access to an application, they get connected to an access broker. That access broker is supposed to verify whether the user should have access to the application and then grant that access. After the connection is established, the access broker does an interesting thing. It gets out of the way of the user interacting with the application. This is the architectural model of ZTNA 1.0. However, there are 5 distinct issues with the 1.0 architecture. The first issue with the 1.0 model is it violates the principle of least privilege. When you hear the term zero trust, it implies that nothing is inherently trusted. The intent is to ensure least privilege by connecting a user to an application and nothing else. In fact, all vendors offering ZTNA 1.0 solutions talk a pretty good game about this very principle, arguing against giving access to broad network segments by granting access to applications. But the reality is, with existing ZTNA 1.0 solutions, when the user requests access to an app, these solutions translate an application to a layer 3 and layer 4 network construct, such as a fully qualified domain name or IP address and port. The problem with this approach is that if you are defining modern applications based on low-level L3, L4 network constructs, you are constantly granting too much access. There are many applications that utilize large and or dynamic ports or port ranges. So when you need to give access to these applications using L3 and L4 constructs, you don't have any fine-grained control to explicitly imply what you want to give access to, which ends up with the users having much more access than is desired or intended. The second issue with ZTNA 1.0 approaches is they provide an allow and ignore model. Once the access broker establishes the connection between the user and the application, all traffic for that session now goes unchecked. If you assume that trust can be verified only once and not checked again, that is a recipe for disaster because user behavior can change and the application could have been compromised and its behavior could have also changed. In fact, the reality is 100% of breaches that have occurred over the past 10 to 15 years have been as a result of allowed activity. Many modern threats also ensure that they only piggyback on allowed activity so that they do not trigger alarms. These 1.0 allow and ignore approaches are very risky. The third issue with 1.0 approaches, once you get past allow and ignore, is there is no app traffic inspection either. With allow and ignore, you are unable to react nor respond in real time to changes in user, device, or app postures. Likewise, without security inspection on the app traffic, you have no ability to identify nor respond to malware or other compromises to the application or traffic. These solutions treat the session used as trusted and thus no further inspection is performed, thus creating a security through obscurity only approach that further puts organizations, their users, apps, and data at risk. The fourth issue with 1.0 approaches is that they do not provide data protection, especially for private applications. This leaves a good portion of the organization's traffic vulnerable to data exfiltration, either from malicious insiders or external attackers. This also forces businesses to deploy completely different DLP solutions across the organization to protect sensitive data in private applications. The final issue with 1.0 solutions is that they do not provide coverage for all applications. Cloud-based apps or other apps that utilize dynamic port or server-initiated applications like support help desk apps where server-initiated connections to remote devices are not supported in ZTNA 1.0 approaches. Of course, 1.0 solutions do not support SaaS apps either. And when you look at modern web apps that are comprised of a series of microservices, defining them based on layer 3 and layer 4 IP address and port is again a recipe for disaster. As more and more organizations continue on their cloud journey and build out more cloud-native applications, ZTNA 1.0 really becomes a challenge. With the 5 big challenges of the 1.0 approach, you may be wondering, how did it ever make it to the market? In reality, ZTNA 1.0 was introduced about 10 years ago, and back then the world was a very different, perhaps simpler place to deal with. Prior to that, VPN access was really all that was required, since apps were in the data center and most of the users were in the office. Then ZTNA came along around 2010 to try and solve some of the problems with VPNs as users and apps started to move outside of the corporate offices and data center. Now, in a world of hybrid network environments and hybrid workforces, where the workforce is now an activity, not a place, with apps and users everywhere, there clearly is a need for a new approach. And that is what we're introducing, a new approach, or a paradigm shift to solve the security connectivity needs for today's hybrid world, and that approach is ZTNA 2.0. There are 5 capabilities that ZTNA 2.0 delivers. 1. It applies the principle of least privilege access, where a user has access to only their application, not just a L3, L4 destination. 2. It delivers continuous trust verification, not allow and ignore anymore. If a user's behavior changes, application behavior changes, or device posture changes, there has to be continuous verification of the trust level granted. 3. It delivers continuous security inspection for all traffic to protect against all threats and all vectors. 4. It protects all data and protects it in a consistent manner regardless of location. And 5, it protects and secures all applications across the entire enterprise, whether they are in the data center, cloud-native microservices-based apps, or SaaS. These 5 key capabilities overcomes the limitations of 1.0 solutions and provides better security outcomes for today's hybrid businesses. One of the things Teneo is known for is keeping an eye on new technologies and finding the ones that best meet the needs of our customers. In this case, delivering on the ZTNA 2.0 requirements. The solution we're talking about today is Prisma Access by Palo Alto Networks, the most trusted name in next-generation firewalls. Palo Alto is not new to Teneo, as we've been a partner with them on the firewall front since nearly their inception and have a security managed services based on it. But as times have changed, there's a need for more support for the anywhere security provided by ZTNA 2.0. And we'll be exploring next how Palo Alto Networks Prisma Access addresses those needs and requirements. Prisma Access delivers and meets all of the requirements for ZTNA 2.0 and does so while improving user experience and simplifying management with a unified interface. Let's first dive into how Prisma Access addresses the 5 distinct issues with the 1.0 architecture. Teneo has observed that most organizations are undergoing a transformation to connect their users directly to the applications they need to get their work done. And the expectation is that each user will be able to get the access that they need to those apps and data, regardless of whether the user is at home, on the road, or in the office, all while minimizing the attack surface. Here's how Prisma Access is implementing ZTNA 2.0, starting with the principle of least privilege access. Palo Alto Networks App ID, User ID, and Device ID deliver rich context and a very granular approach to allowing access to applications. But it's not a one-and-done situation with Prisma Access. It doesn't just check the user ID and IP port of the application and call it a day. The App ID capabilities of Prisma Access are stateful. It continuously gathers information about the TCP session, the application handshakes, the application's behavior, the stateful protocols, and more. At the same time, User ID and Device ID controls are similarly and continuously gathering information about the users and the device. When you combine App ID, User ID, and Device ID access controls, again, it's not a one-and-done model, but an environment that now provides rich contextual information for making better decisions about how to best enable any user on any device access to the specific application they're requesting, while at the same time continuously gathering additional context, such as user or app behavior or device ID changes, and be able to react to those changes in real time. This is the fundamental difference between L3, L4 network-based approaches and a true application-based approach. ZTNA 1.0 solutions make access decisions based on these low-level L3, L4 IP and port-level functions, which do not provide sufficient context about applications, users, or devices to truly deliver the principle of least privilege. So not only does Prisma Access deliver on the least privilege principle, but continuous monitoring doesn't stop once access is granted. It also provides continuous trust verification even after access to the app has been granted. This ensures that device posture or any changes to it, along with user and application behaviors, are all continuously monitored and verified so we can respond to any changes or deviations in real time. But it doesn't stop there either. Prisma Access brings in continuous security inspection, where its full set of capabilities such as wildfire, advanced URL security, advanced threat prevention, SASE security, DNS security, and more are on hand to perform deep inspection, including for allowed connections as well as zero-day threats. And with its AI and machine learning powered threat prevention technologies, it stops 95% of zero-day threats in line. This means you don't need a first victim or have to wait for signatures to be updated. Your environment is instantly protected. This infinity loop of continuous trust verification and continuous security inspection is a powerful model for delivering better security for today's hybrid workforces and overcoming some of the shortcomings of ZTNA 1.0 solutions. It can also apply advanced DLP capabilities consistently to all applications for private apps or SaaS apps, all with the same DLP policy. So you don't need to guess which apps are protected and what data is secure to continue realizing strong data protection and security policies across the board. And this is true across all enterprise apps. It can be a modern, cloud-native, microservices-based application that doesn't get restricted by IPs and ports. It can be a SaaS app, a traditional private app, or a legacy app, the types of applications that are actually paying the bills. Making sure the architecture actually solves for all these scenarios is a fundamental aspect of Prisma Access and how Prisma Access is delivered on ZTNA 2.0. So to recap, Prisma Access delivers on true least privilege access, continuous trust verification, continuous security inspection, protection for all data, and protection for all apps. Now, let's talk about how Prisma Access actually improves user experience. First off, why is this important for a security solution? ZTNA has found that most IT infrastructure and operation teams are overworked and struggle to introduce new technology. We combine leading technology with expert guidance so they can embrace innovation with confidence. What better way to help IT provide extra value to the business than by tackling two challenges with one solution? Prisma Access is in an exceptional position to deliver that added value by providing both security and performance for critical business applications. When it comes to business outcomes, Prisma Access provides the best availability metric, 5 nines of uptime. And it provides extremely low latency for a security solution, backed by an SLA for security processing, as well as providing SaaS performance SLAs for leading SaaS applications. How is it able to do this? It starts with a cloud-native architecture designed around cloud scale, built as a series of microservices and other cloud-native artifacts. Prisma Access takes advantage of the highest performing and most available public cloud providers such as Google and AWS by having a private instance across their private backbones with access to their private fiber and load balance across their global backbones to deliver very high performance and availability everywhere. What this allows for our customers is to globally have their users, their branch offices, their applications, data centers, cloud locations, SaaS applications, all come together on the back of this extremely powerful solution. Next, while Prisma Access provides this massively distributed cloud-native and cloud-scaled solution, it was built with enterprise-class multi-tenancy. What this means for you is it isolates every tenant's and every customer's data plane. This provides a more secure cloud environment and prevents other customers from affecting your performance on your data. Of course, you'd expect this from any cloud service or cloud security solution. However, in the industry, many leading solutions have shared or commingled data planes. This creates a situation where a noisy neighbor that generates a bunch of traffic can adversely impact the performance of all shared customers on that same data plane. Likewise, any potential security impact also will adversely impact all customers who are sharing that data plane. A better approach that ensures the highest performance is an enterprise-class multi-tenant environment that provides true data plane isolation and a dedicated data plane for each customer. Finally, if you are trying to build a solution that can react and respond in real time as well as alert administrators, you need native and pervasive visibility. Visibility from the network, security devices, but also from the user's perspective. Typically, IT has little to no visibility or insights into how a remote user interacts with their application. How is the application performing from the user's point of view? What is causing a connectivity issue? Why can't the user get access to this particular application, etc.? Are there too many windows open on my laptop? Is the Wi-Fi network signal strong enough? Is my ISP having performance issues perhaps? IT just doesn't have sufficient visibility nor any knowledge of the causes. And with the increase in remote and work from home users, there simply aren't enough resources available to effectively identify and solve these types of issues with our new hybrid workforces. That's where end user experience monitoring, or EUEM, comes in. All the visibility that is required is being captured and analyzed. So if there is a challenge, IT can identify it instantly and, more importantly, remediate the solution. When you take all these three things into account, you can clearly see how Prisma Access is purpose-built and tailored to deliver the best user experiences. A cloud-native architecture designed on the biggest backbones and across multiple clouds to ensure high availability. Data plane isolation ensures a truly enterprise-grade multi-tenant environment without commingling data or having noisy neighbors impacting performance, and pervasive visibility with EUEM that leverages deep insights into client performance to deliver a truly exceptional user experience. Now let's talk about the impact of having all of these capabilities in a unified product and why you should care about this. There are numerous vendors out there espousing a single management screen or integrated features like role-based access controls, etc. The reality is that as customers really start moving to ZTNA, not having a unified product creates challenges. When we want to control a user, a device, and an application consistently without worrying about where the user or where the application is being delivered from, having a unified product becomes exceedingly useful. Not only from a day two operational perspective, those benefits are quite obvious, it's also important from a security outcome perspective as well. From incident avoidance, incident detection, and remediation, having a plethora of tools with different management screens, different data lakes, different policies causes issues, such as avoiding the problem because you have inconsistencies, or it's difficult detecting a problem because different parts of the environment don't talk to each other, or you have to chase multiple tools to apply remedial policy, which becomes costly, cumbersome, and extremely time-consuming, all of which leads to a poor security outcome. For many customers, the way their solutions have evolved has been either across multiple vendors or from a single vendor that has incorporated multiple disjointed capabilities. This is not the right approach to delivering better security outcomes for today's hybrid enterprise with hybrid workforces. So Prisma Access has turned this model on its head. The three core components when most people think about a unified product are management, policy, and data. With Palo Alto Networks, these are all brought together to ensure a user app model rather than a product-centric or product-specific model. No more forcing organizations to use 4 separate products to achieve the same level of security that Prisma Access delivers in a single unified product. Getting started with ZTNA 2.0 should not be a difficult or overwhelming challenge, and it should not come with compromises. It boils down to alignment, mapping needs to the key concerns or challenges most organizations are facing, and solving for those challenges without requiring a massive architectural shift or disruption. What are the 3 key challenges most companies are facing today then? Teneo has found that the 3 biggest challenges organizations are facing today include VPN replacement, moving away from on-prem VPN concentrators and poor performing backhauling architectures, inefficient network paths, and expensive to manage infrastructure. 2, security web gateway or SWIG or cloud SWIG projects. Again, similar to a VPN project, the need to move away from premise-based and legacy proxy architectures to a modern cloud-based approach to secure users accessing web and internet tools. And finally, SaaS security or Cloud Access Security Broker or CASB projects to modernize security for and regain control over the explosion of SaaS applications, limit exposure, and provide a better protection for sensitive data, as well as to get a handle on shadow IT. Teneo would love to meet with you and discuss each of these use cases in more detail and how ZTNA 2.0 powered by Prisma Access can help solve your hybrid network challenges. Also, if you're already a Palo Alto Networks customer, Teneo would also love to provide you with a free security risk report to ensure that things are configured correctly and you're getting the maximum value from the solution. I hope this has been helpful. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or contact us at teneo.net and someone will get back with you immediately. Thanks for your time.